law did come late to British Columbia, but when he came, he was astonishing. This man wasn't the Dodge City Sheriff or Tombstone Marshal living on the luck of the draw. He was the form and substance of British justice, sent out from England to challenge the Wild West. This was his jurisdiction in 1858. The Fraser Canyon country, and beyond that, the Caribou. Country still difficult to reach today. He was the only judge. He was also a greenhorn, twice a greenhorn. He had never before been a judge. He had never before seen frontier country. Then and now, historians argue about him, but they agree that he rode bravely into this very tough assignment.
There's a creek about a mile up the river from here that looks pretty good.
Fellow said he was up from California. I thought he was pretty good at cards. Pockets were bulging. Who was the man up there? That old lady. Was quite a caper, I tell you. You really should have seen this fellow. Was he sore when I cleaned him up?
Matthew Bailie Begbie. Have you a room?
Maybe you better go out and work the bags to get yourself a little money to cover this steak. Just go up the stairs there. So in he comes again. The same fella that doubted me. So I said to him, you don't question a man's game. Who knows? We may have to do a bit of shooting around here to show these sons of Britishers that we mean what we say when we say it.
Shooting! You're thinking of doing some shooting? Well, gentlemen, let me tell you something. If there is any shooting done around here, there is likely to be some hanging, too. And not very long after it, either.
Well, he's looking for trouble. Who is he?
He says his name is Matthew Bailie Begbie.
Begbie? Begbie? That's him? That's the fellow you all came down to size up? The British judge. Talks big, don't he? Well, let's see him in a little action, eh, boys? Your British judge. 1 if by land and 2 if by sea. Yeah, let's see him at work. Your British judge.
Prisoner, I am glad to see that your case has drawn together into this temporary court of justice so many of your compatriots. I am given to understand that the mining class of the Western states looks upon liberty as a condition of life which gives it the right to defy the laws of its country and govern it according to its own wishes by might of the Bowie knife and Colt's revolver. You, prisoner, you are a good representative of that class, and I am told there are many more of your kidney within the sound of my voice. Let me define for those who have come from the United States what our laws look upon as liberty. It is set down very clearly so that no person may make any mistake as to its meaning. Liberty is the power of doing what is allowed by the law. When you go beyond this, you indulge in license. I have been appointed a judge to interpret the law and to see that the law is carried out. In this country, we have a law which prohibits the use of Bowie knives, revolvers, and other offensive weapons. And in those countries over which the British flag flies, there is no necessity for using or carrying such offensive weapons. And let me tell those of you who are in the court that in the course of my duties, I will punish most severely all those who, coming into this British colony, make use of deadly weapons. Prisoner, the jury has very properly found you guilty of this wanton and cowardly attack with a knife. You will spend 3 years in a place of confinement.
3 years?
I have special instructions for the chief constable and his deputies. I am informed that efforts will be made to release the prisoner from custody. The order of the court is this: at the first sign or hint of effort, hostile or otherwise, on the part of any person to interfere with the transportation of the prisoner to New Westminster, you and your deputies are to shoot the prisoner dead. Court adjourned.
All right, come on. Let's get going.
This was the first court of assize over which he presided, and many thought that such a man would never last long in this country. But he was to remain a judge for 37 years and see the country change almost beyond recognition. Judge Begbie's first cases were a manifesto, a declaration, and stories about him echoed from mountain to mountain and into the depths of the Pacific forest.
Have either of you gentlemen anything to say before you hear the judgment of this court?
No, sir.
You will address the court as Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
It is not an unfamiliar phenomenon that the spirit of brotherhood takes to its heels when the question of inherited property appears upon the scene. Testimony shows that your father intended an equal sharing of this property. Each of you would share by claiming the mineral rights and the water rights, leaving the uncleared land to the other. It seems you are unable to resolve this on a basis of Christian fraternity. Therefore, the court will do so on your behalf. The order of this court is that you, plaintiff, will divide the property into 2 parts. And you, defendant, will take your choice of those 2 parts as your share. The remainder to revert to the plaintiff. Court adjourned. God save the Queen.
With every case, the fame of the horseback judge grew. The scattered mining towns grew into roaring rich communities, and as legend has it, British justice was adapted to frontier conditions.
Are we ready to proceed?
This ain't gonna be justice. This here ain't no fair trial. There ain't no lawyer to defend me. I demand a lawyer.
You are no doubt aware that there is no lawyer in British Columbia. Nevertheless, the court will see to it that you are provided with skilled professional counsel. I will defend you. Keep your mouth shut and leave the matter to me.
We find the defendant guilty as charged.
It's all lies. Every one of them witnesses. They all got it in for me for one reason or another. Just like I keep telling you. They're all liars. Especially about me shooting that old fool 6 times. I didn't need to shoot him 6 times.
My client has been a grave disappointment to me. Prisoner, when I was your counselor in this trial, I advised you to keep your mouth shut. The advice was not taken, and you have been convicted out of your own mouth. As counsel, my advice was not taken, and now, as judge, I must pronounce sentence. Have you anything to say, I presume, why sentence should not be passed against you?
I sure do. I didn't have no fair trial. There wasn't no real defending attorney.
In that event, I shall send your case to a higher court for a new trial by your maker.
Reports of Begbie spread far, and American adventurers coming to the canyons told amongst themselves many wild tales about him.
I seen him myself at Boston Bar. He said, this here Indian don't understand white man's laws about drinking, so he'd deal with them according to Indian custom. He scalped him.
Scalped him!
As near as makes no difference, cut off his hair. Fact. Chopped it clean off.
No.
Help! That sound like Begbie? It's a good one. Help.
Spare a few beans?
Here, dig in, friend.
Thanks.
Say, ain't you Ned McGowan? Yeah, I seen you on the boat at Frisco. All them vigilantes down on the dock peppering away at you with 6-shooters, knocking chips off the boat.
I recollect we did have some slight disagreement.
You come to the wrong place, McGowan. Up around here, they got this man Begbie.
I first heard about him down in California. They say when this man Begbie comes to town for a trial, first off, he walks about picking out the trees where he's gonna hang the boys he's come to try.
Keep out of his court, Ned.
I've already enjoyed his brand of justice. You know, they got these magistrates now down the river. Well, the two at Yale and Hill's Bar, well, they decided that they were in contempt of each other's court, and one of them deputized me to arrest the other.
No.
With a little posse. I did. The whole thing wound up in Begbie's court. He did nothing. Fired the two magistrates. Dismissed all charges against me. He's not so tough. The realities of life out here are going to be too much for this gentleman. Juries will be his weak spot. Will they get the notion that he's going to play rough? Well, they won't hang their friends. Not in this kind of country.
Frontier juries sometimes did not have the most conscientious regard for the evidence.
Gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
We find the defendant guilty of manslaughter.
Prisoner, it is a far from pleasant duty for me to have to sentence you to imprisonment for life. Your crime is quite clear and specific and proved beyond all doubt. It was unmitigated, diabolical murder. You deserve to be hanged. Had the jury performed its duty, I might now have the painful satisfaction of sentencing you to death. And you, gentlemen of the jury, you are a pack of Dallas horse thieves. And permit me to say it would give me the greatest pleasure to see you hanged, each and every one of you, for declaring a murderer guilty of manslaughter. Prisoner, you displayed skill in brutally and sadistically sandbagging the deceased. In return for the lenience of the jury, you could do me an inestimable favor. I would be pleased if, after being withdrawn from this courthouse, you would personally sandbag each and every member of the jury and see that not one of them escapes.
In time, everyone had his favorite yarn, true or false, to tell about the learned judge. If we combine several of these stories into a hypothetical week of his career, it would go something like this.
Howdy, Judge. You in a great hurry to get into town?
Don't I know you?
Ned McGowan. You did me the service of dismissing a charge against me at Yale.
My misfortune, Mr. McGowan. There's little room for your kind, even in so large a country.
I hear that a friend of mine will be coming up on a murder charge in town shortly. Len McVickers? I have reason to believe the jury will not convict my friend. Unless it's pretty apparent that the sentence will be something much less than hanging. Perhaps you'd like to discuss it?
You may be in contempt of court. I will take it under advisement. In the meantime, perhaps you'd care to assuage your curiosity by riding down with me and observing at first hand how justice is dealt out in a British court.
Delighted, Your Lordship.
Your pal doesn't come up till tomorrow, McGowan.
Just wanted to see if his lordship was in a good mood today. Who's he?
He's a Peninsular War veteran. Begbie's father served as Wellington, you know, and he's been trying to get the fellow off.
Apparently, his lordship can be influenced by sentiments. After all.
I scarcely know how to deal with this case. Prisoner, I have admittedly done my utmost to clear you of this charge. Unfortunately, you are the most consummate scoundrel who ever lived. To think that you decked yourself out in all Her Majesty's war paint, which you no doubt obtained by skulking in the trenches, and in these trappings of honor, armed yourself with a hatchet, crawled into the house of God, and broke open a box wherein little children had placed their sixpences in order to purchase books wherewith to make themselves better acquainted with their Maker. A mangy, starving cur wouldn't have done it. If you had decked yourself in this war paint, armed yourself with a double-barreled gun and crawled up behind some poor wretch and blown his brains out, you may be sure I would have sentenced you to be hanged in the shortest time God and the law allows. However, I think 18 months will meet the requirements of your case. Constable, take him from my sight.
Won't be long now. Evidence all in, and your sidekick's guilty, all right.
He shot an Indian. Nobody is ever guilty of shooting an Indian.
Hey, boys, the jury's coming back.
Gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict? Well?
We find the defendant not guilty.
There seems to be some sort of an illusion hereabouts that the laws of this country are not applicable when murder is done to members of the Indian race. The jury has failed correctly to interpret my instructions to them concerning the law in this manner. We will say the error is mine. I did not speak clearly. I now correct the error. It has been proven beyond any doubt that the prisoner is a depraved and bloodthirsty scoundrel who, with intent and malice aforethought, and in the presence of witnesses, blew out the brains of his defenseless victim. Do not, through error of mine, gentlemen of the jury, leave this court with a blemish on the name of each one of you, that you became a moral accessory to his fiendish act. I invite you to retire and reconsider your verdict, or else every honest man will easily realize that out of your own mouths you are demonstrated to be the consorts of thieves and murderers, and that he must act accordingly.
Jury's still out.
Over an hour. Took him 5 minutes to decide he weren't guilty. What's keeping him this time?
Trying to decide who scares them most.
What do you mean?
Friends of the prisoner or old Begbie?
Maybe they just don't want to come back to see what Begbie's got to say to them this time.
Well, boys, this time it's guilty.
What did I tell you? Pay out. Come on, come on. Pay out.
Prisoner, the court finds you guilty as charged and sentences you to be hanged by the neck until dead tomorrow morning at sunrise. Court adjourned.
Look, I'm sorry, but the prisoner can't be hanged tomorrow. I'm leaving town tonight, me and my deputies. We won't be here to hang him.
He hangs at dawn, and you be there, or I'll hold you in contempt of court. May God have mercy on your soul. And may God have mercy on the souls of all those who delude themselves that there exists in this country a law for one man and not for another.
The legends of the first judge in British Columbia are many, but certain facts are clear. Matthew Bailie Begbie brought impartial justice to the new colony, and eventually a great western province to the Canadian nation.